Bu oturum için sözü moderatörümüz Sayın İren Dicle Aytaç'a bırakıyorum. Buyurun hocam.
Welcome to 6th of Sempozyumu Journal, International Symposium on Cinema and Philosophy. I'm honored to be the moderator. To be the moderator of the session entitled Minor Cinema and Film Aesthetics. On this session, we will planning to have three very enlightening, very interesting speeches. But one of our speakers is not here yet. I hope he will join us later. But first of all, we will have Liliya Tsibizova from Russia, and she will give us, if she is okay, she will give us a speech. Dr. Tsibizova, are you ready to join? Yes, I guess. We will listen her speech on the poetic aesthetics of Rustam Khamdamov. She will give us a speech about his journey, cinematic journey, and his evolvement of poetic aesthetics. Dr. Liliya Tsibizova, are you ready? I can give you the microphone. I'm not sure if she is ready, so maybe we can go offline first of all. Dr. Kennedy, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
But do we have my slides?
Yeah, we can, I guess. So, while waiting for our other speakers, we will have a very interesting paper about Irish cinema and Irish language. Dr. Kennedy from the Trinity College, Dublin, will give us a speech about Baird's film, if An Caílin Ciúin can be regarded as an example of Deleuzian minor cinema. Here is his speech. Thank you very much.
Yikes. Hi there. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming to listen. It's always a pleasure to be here in Ankara and for the Cinephilosophy Symposium. You're probably wondering how to pronounce the name of this film. It is An Caílin Ciúin, and it means the quiet girl. Okay? You may have seen it at the Oscars. So let's get going. The release and the national and international success of Colin Bairde's An Caílin Ciúin, The Quiet Girl, is part of a major contemporary moment for Irish cinema, coming at a time of great political and social change in the country, today in 2023, and describing another such moment 40 years ago. This simple and yet powerful story is centered on a girl caught, in English something like Kate, from a poor rural family in the Ireland of 1981, who is sent to stay with richer childless relatives, the Kinsella family, for the summer. In the course of her stay, she discovers the previous and tragic loss of the Kinsella's son, and she becomes almost a replacement for their child who died. The most commented on aspect of the film's success in the media is that it is the most successful Irish language film in history at the box office globally, as well as the first Irish language feature film nominated for major awards, including the Oscar for Best Foreign Film. So in an interview with Gold Derby, Bairde argued that the film was important in terms of bringing representation to the Irish language, starting new conversations about it within Ireland, and speaking to the world in our own native tongue. By choosing to frame the issue in these terms, he thus raises the question of minority and of the representation of a minority language. He also raises the question of authenticity, the ability to tell the story of a community, a particular linguistic group, for example, to an international audience in the way that seems best suited to the storytellers, both actors and filmmakers. How do I move this on? Sorry. Oops. Could you move it for me, or? Yeah. Okay. So I'll just tell you when to move on. Thanks. Great. Yeah. Oh, okay. Wonderful.
Push a little bit hard, please. Okay.
Okay. So, as you are an international audience, I wanted to begin by just providing you with a few basic facts about the linguistic situation in Ireland. So, as you can see from this graph, for a long time, most people in Ireland spoke Irish, the Irish language, or Gaelic, as their native tongue, even while living under English colonial rule. But during the 19th century, the language started a steep decline, accelerating during the Great Famine of the 1840s, which hit Irish-speaking areas in the west of the country particularly hard, and was followed by many waves of emigration due to economic necessity. A legacy of colonialism and racism led to the language becoming associated with poverty and backwardness, and it stigmatized its use even among those who could speak it. So as you can see, Irish disappeared from most of the country, remaining in everyday use only in some small rural areas of Ireland. You can see them in green there, in the west and in the south, which we call the Gaeltacht. Since the Republic of Ireland became independent in 1921, the government has pursued policies attempting to re-establish the Irish language in the English-speaking parts of the country, with some success, albeit severely limited. Now, here. Okay. I don't know, it's not me.
No, it's not you, of course.
Okay, thank you. So the relationship of the Irish language to Irish identity remains very problematic to Irish people. Some damn the language as obsolete, and a waste of time and money, while others consider its preservation to be the only way of preserving a separate Irish identity and culture. Next slide, please. Great. So a reading of An Caílin Ciúin could, I believe, be profitably accomplished by looking at it through the conceptual framework constructed by Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari, and in particular by looking at two distinct yet related concepts. So the first is that of minority, as expressed in particular in Deleuze and Guattari's elaboration of the concept of minor literature, which they examine in their book Kafka, Towards a Minor Literature. The second is that of political cinema, which Deleuze develops in relation to the notion of a people who are missing, and which is detailed in Cinema 2, The Time Image. So I want to look at these two concepts, particularly in relation to the concept of language and identity. In the earlier text, Kafka, Deleuze and Guattari explicitly link an artistic statement, such as a film, to the notion of the collective expression of a people, arguing that, quote, when a statement is produced by a bachelor or an artistic singularity, it occurs necessarily as a function of a national, political, or social community, even if the objective conditions of this community are not yet given. Having said this, An Caílin Ciúin is not an explicitly political film, in the sense that it does not tackle, head-on and discursively, any of the deep-rooted political and social issues which plagued the Ireland of the 1980s, whether they be the partition of the country and continued political violence, social oppression and the power of the Catholic Church, the lack of freedom and the weaker social position of women, mass immigration, high unemployment, or profound economic crisis. Next slide, please. Thank you. In this short paper, as I begin my research on An Caílin Ciúin, I want to focus in particular on the differences between the film and its source text, from which it was adapted, the novella Foster by Claire Keegan. So there are two significant differences which I want to focus on in this paper. The first difference is linguistic. Foster is set exclusively in English-speaking Ireland, in County Wexford, in the southeast of the country, and there is no suggestion that the characters are speaking Irish. Indeed, some of them have English names which are changed to Irish names in the film. But the film adaptation, An Caílin Ciúin, is largely, though not exclusively, shot in the Irish language and features Irish-speaking characters. The filmmakers transplant the action from Wexford to Anrin, the Gaeltacht near Waterford, again in the southeast of the country, and thus change many of the names of the persons and places. And secondly, the linguistic divide between Irish and English runs through the central family, with the young protagonist caught, her mother, her siblings, and her so-called foster parents, the Kinsellas, all Irish speakers, while in the film, Caught's neglectful deadbeat father is depicted as only speaking English, there being some ambiguity as to whether he is even capable of speaking Irish or whether he merely chooses not to do it. In Kafka, Deleuze and Guattari reject the notion of a minor literature or minor cinema being merely the reification, or in their terms, quote, a desperate attempt at symbolic reterritorialization, end quote, of a minor subject position. That is, a film does not become minor in their terms simply because it is shot in a minor language. In speaking Irish, neither the characters nor the filmmakers are trying to make any kind of overt political statement, unlike, for example, we can see in the use of Irish in other films, such as by the IRA prisoners in Steve McQueen's Hunger. Indeed, specific references to the 1980s IRA hunger strikes in Foster is not included in the film, which, for whatever reason, avoids this obvious political reference. Next slide, please. Thanks. So, in examining how language does operate in this film, let's look at how in Kafka, Deleuze and Guattari make reference to what they term, quote, a tetralinguistic model. Vernacular, maternal, or territorial language used in rural communities or rural in its origins, a vehicular, urban, governmental, or even worldwide language, a language of businesses, commercial exchange, bureaucratic transmission, and so on, a language of the first sort of deterritorialization, referential language, language of sense and of culture, entailing a cultural reterritorialization, mythic language on the horizon of cultures, caught up a spiritual or religious reterritorialization, end quotation. So through tracing the ways in which Irish and English intersect in the lives of his characters, Barrade articulates the complicated familial, affective, social, commercial, institutional, and political relations that are at play in this bilingual film. Questions of marginality and minority are not clear-cut or easy here. The Irish language speakers are not speaking from the position of greatest marginality. Caught's Irish-speaking foster parents are in a more secure and stable living situation than her socially isolated family of origin. Yet, the film presents Caught as a speaker of English and Irish, navigating both languages through various forms of interaction with other persons and institutions, which may be institutional, commercial, familial, affective, and so on. So she has English in her school, Irish and English with members of her family and her foster family, Irish with neighbours in the Kinsellas community, English when making a shopping trip to Waterford to buy new clothes, and so on and so forth. The small Irish-speaking community in which she finds support and family is an island in a larger English-speaking world. As we see the different functions which language and languages play in her life, we are reminded of Deleuze and Guattari's statement in Kafka that, quote, even when it is unique, a language remains a mixture, a schizophrenic mélange, a harlequin costume in which very different functions of language and distinct centres of power are played out, blurring what can be said and what can't be said. One function will be played off against the other. All the degrees of territoriality and relative deterritorialization will be played out. So Caught's linguistic and social situation in this film can be described as cramped space, or as Deleuze and Guattari would have it, quote, as a result of which everything is immediately politicized. On further and closer examination, the viewer can relate Cort's individual life story to the many complex themes in this film, set at a time when Ireland was a deeply religious and socially conservative country, very far from what it is today. These include familial estrangement, parenthood, and the different troubles attached to both motherhood and fatherhood, including the social function of parenthood within a small community and the social impact of having it taken away. There's also loss and grief, the inability of couples in 1980s Ireland to effectively control their own fertility, and the great economic changes which rural Ireland was living through at the time, shortly after the country's accession to the European community. As Deleuze and Guattari argue, quote, the individual concern thus becomes all the more necessary, indispensable, magnified, because a whole other story is vibrating within it. In this way, the family triangle connects to other triangles, commercial, economic, bureaucratic, juridical, that determine its values. In An Caílin Ciúin, these connections are examined and delineated through the changing role of language. Next slide, please. The second main difference between Keegan's Foster and An Caílin Ciúin is that of point of view. Foster is rather simply narrated, entirely told in the present tense, in a first-person narrative, always from the point of view of the child. Next slide, please. Thanks. Many of the shots in An Caílin Ciúin are similarly from the child's viewpoint, particularly in the early part of the film when Cort arrives at the Kinsella's house. Either they are explicitly point of view shots, as we can see here in the left, where she meets her foster mother for the first time, or they are shots focused on the young girl and intended to show Cort's nervousness, smallness of stature, and hesitation in her large, comparatively affluent and unfamiliar new surroundings. So I'm thinking in particular of the early scenes in which she is bathed by Eileen, her foster mother, for the first time, or the scenes in which she nervously bids Ichawai, or good evening, to Sean, her initially forbidding and seemingly unfriendly foster father. During these scenes too, we also see Eileen's, the foster mother's point of view in particular, focused on Cort. Yet one scene in particular, I believe, is interesting, both because of its role in the story and of its position in the film's linguistic landscape. So Cort has been left without clothes because her neglectful father drove away with her case still in the car, and as such she has been forced to wear, initially unknowingly, the clothes of the Kinsella's dead son, a practice which appears to function for her foster parents as both a new source of pain and also as a relief to it. Having discovered, along with the audience, of the true story of the Kinsella's dead son, Cort is finally taken by them to the big town, the city of Waterford, to buy new clothes, a journey which involves stepping outside of the Irish language and into English for a small but pivotal scene. Eileen buys the new clothes for Cort. We see her come out with them on in a shot-reverse shot combination. We then see the two women here. Next slide, please. And the shop assistant tells her in English, and isn't your mammy good to you? Your mother good to you? This scene could have been skipped if the filmmakers had wanted to shoot the whole feature in Irish, but it is nevertheless crucial because it allows the audience to see the pair through the eyes of the English-speaking shop assistant. At the same time, we, the audience, realize what pain the scene must be causing Eileen, who will never again have the opportunity to buy clothes for her own lost child. But we also see how natural and how like a mother and daughter the pair appear to be to the assistant, how in a sense they do belong together. This superimposition of perspectives, both from and of the central foster mother-daughter pairing, allows us to explore a condition theorized by Pier Paolo Pasolini and drawn on by Deleuze in his cinema books of free and direct discourse. Free and direct discourse in cinematic terms means to go beyond the classic binary of the subjective point of view shot and the supposedly objective presentation of events from the point of view of an imagined omniscient observer. Free and direct discourse, therefore, refers to the multiplicity of overlapping perspectives in cinema, superimposed one on top of the other, as we examine and dissect this new foster family, both from the perspective of each of its members and from the outside, from the English-speaking community. As Greg Lambert has argued, quote, the situation of a minor literature is immediately characterized by a situation of free and indirect discourse. Patricia Pisters, too, has also suggested that free and direct discourse is the inherent defining quality of political cinema. Quoting Deleuze and Guattari, she argues that free and direct styles create, quote, an acentered plane of composition, instituting counterpoints between the heterogeneous elements of characters, current events, biographies, and camera eyes, end quote. This semi-subjective perception thus created is a necessary condition for what Deleuze termed the time image. As we see the perspectives of the English-speaking and Irish-speaking communities overlapping, we begin to see the possibility of a new family for Kot based on affective rather than simply biological bonds, which cast further into relief her actual situation as an overlooked and effectively surplus child living precariously in poverty. Deleuze and Guattari argue, quote, that the three characteristics of minor literature are the deterritorialization of language, the connection of the individual to a political immediacy, and the collective assemblage of enunciation. So in this paper, I've tried to give an initial sketch of how the conceptual tools offered to us by Deleuze and Guattari are of use in interpreting this deceptively simple film. While it is neither an overtly and self-consciously political film, nor one which explicitly attempts to represent a defined minority position, a closer reading of this film through these lenses helps us to uncover the many complex social and political themes which underpin this story of two families. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this very interesting and very good presentation. It was very enlightening. Thank you very much. Now we will listen to Tsibizova Liliya. She will present us her speech entitled The Poetic Aesthetics of Rustam Khamdamov. Thank you very much. Here you are, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Merhaba.
Merhaba. Merhabalar.
You might want to change the screen. You've still got
Yes, of course. Doctor,
We have sound. Yes.
can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Merhaba again. Welcome again. Can you please, can you share your screen? Is there any problem with your presentation?
Just a moment. Так.
Zoom'u ekrana alabilir miyiz?
Okay.
We can see you, but we can't see your presentation yet.
You don't.
No, we can't see. You can say share screen. Are you sharing your screen with us?
You don't see my presentation.
No, we can't see it yet. Can you please try again? Within Zoom, you know, there is a share screen option. If you like, we can share your presentation and you can tell me to move on. I will move forward your presentation. If you cannot share your screen, I can share your presentation from here. Would you like to that?
Can you see my presentation?
No, I can't see, but we will share our screen. You will see it from our screen, okay? I will move your presentation for you. Okay, now translation now? Everything is okay. Thank you very much. You're all ears.
My presentation about Rustam Khamdamov. He is an amazing person. The artist in timeless. It is difficult to determine what comes first in his work, director or artist. And you can see his drawings and watercolors and his favorite graphic motifs. He is one of the most mysterious figures in contemporary art in our country. He was born in the capital of Uzbekistan, Tashkent, during the Second World War. His mother was Tatar and his father was Uzbek. At the age of 20, he comes to Moscow and enters the Institute of Cinematography in the directing faculty. His first work was a film based on the William Saroyan story, My Heart is in the Mountains. Rustam Khamdamov is not only the director of this movie, he writes the script with a rather free interpretation of the literary source, created the scenery, and draws the costumes of this movie. His film, My Heart is in the Mountains, has become a kind of legend in cinema, documenting the birth of new cinematic aesthetics, which highlights the artist's existential devotion to beauty in bizarre combination of Platonic aids with the capricious fragility of the Silver Age. This is how the period of the late 19th or early 20th century is called in Russian tradition. Khamdamov's young ladies wear intricate wide-brimmed hats and sailor suits. They appeared like a miracle from another time. The contrast of black and white keys of the costumes of a couple in love and piano and chair in the middle of a narrow street, a lonely musician, all this will become the visiting card of the artist and director. Khamdamov's aesthetics go from fantastic romanticism to romanticism of reality. Here there is both an artistic form of confession and movement towards Baroque mystery. In 1972, Khamdamov began to work at film Unexpected Joys. This is a story about the work of the Moscow film crew in Crimea during the Civil War, immediately after the October Revolution. They are making the film A Slave of Love, with the participation of Russian film star, prototype movie star Vera Kholodnaya. The famous Moscow director Osip Prokudin-Gorsky, a nervous, sophisticated man and expert and collector of carpets, is passionate about the mystic impulse and Sufi wisdom about ornaments, as well as the philosophy of Gurdjieff. He walks through Crimean bazaars, buying antique oriental carpets. His goal is to find a special carpet, which, according to legend, has magical powers. If the blood of innocent person is shed on it, then in the kingdom where this happened, peace and prosperity come for 100 years. The film was created in tradition of silent film aesthetics. While half of the material has already been filmed, the Soviet management issued a verdict that the material does not correspond to the approved script. In 1974, Khamdamov left cinema. For many years, the artist worked in various genres of fine art, designed performances, and made sketches of costumes for the theater, ballet, and Western high fashion houses. In 1991, Khamdamov returns to cinema with the movie Anna Karamazov. Its name arose from the novel by Vladimir Nabokov, like a mix of the names of Russian classic novels, Tolstoy, Anna Karenina, and Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. The heroine, played by Жанна Moreau, returns from Stalin's concentration camp to Leningrad in 1949. The postmodern text collected by Tolstoy, Zaitsev, Letters of Marina Tsvetaeva sounds like self-irony, referring us to different eras and styles. Khamdamov made this movie in color. The colors of this movie are heavy, deep, and tragic. The director skillfully works in the space of the unconscious, hints and associations. This is a poetic film in which image, color, and sound convey the psychological development of the term of return through the memory of sensations. Dramaturgy is based on plasticity only. The author worked on the movie vocal parallels for more than 9 years. The title of this movie was borrowed from the book of the famous opera tenor Giacomo Lauri Volpi. The director himself defines the genre of this film as a concert, in which formerly famous opera singers Araxia Davtyan, Rosa Jamanova, and Eric Kurmangaliev take part. They performed parts from Puccini, Schumann, and Rossini. The host of this unreal concert, Renata Litvinova, comes out, announces the vocalists, and teaches them about life. She says that in art, it is often not talent that wins, but mediocrity. You just need to choose the right tactics and be able to compromise. And her words, but they don't learn the lessons well. They don't live like that, so they don't belong here and they die. Then they fly to the next world on an airplane, but still seen. They're in the heaven. Illusions, parallels, echoes of eras, styles, musicial and usual images. This is the artistic base from which the film is born. Dream and reality ultimately become a hypertext to which you can return endlessly. In 2010, at the Venice International Film Festival, Khamdamov presents his new film, Diamonds, Theft. Here again, the aesthetic of black and white cinema of the early 20th century. The director returns to origins of cinema to photography. The hero of the movie is a lover of diamonds, an adventure, a ballerina who steals the jewel and then gives it as a gift. She is played by the prima ballerina of the Mariinsky Theater, the famous Diana Vishneva. The movie seems to be created from music and light and perfect ballet movements. Khamdamov's work looks archaic in appearance, but that's not true. He brings back perfect beauty to our modern world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doctor. That was very interesting to have a new look at Rustam Khamdamov. Thank you very much. Now we have a little bit more time because our third researcher couldn't make it here. I'm very sorry for this, but I guess something happened. So now we have more time for our other speeches. If there's any question from our audiences, we can get our questions. First of all, I will give you a little summary. I was very interested, I was very excited about Dr. Kennedy's speech. Thank you very much. That was a very interesting inquiry about the film, The Quiet Girl. I won't try the original this time because I'm very sorry. I was trying to say An Caílin Ciúin, but it is a little bit hard for me, but it was very interesting. His quest on his examination on film was very interesting, I guess, I think, because it's not a direct political film. And also, in fact, as far as I can see, it avoids to, in fact, portray some very important political positions, problems, or historical events. So, but even in this point, we can still have the opportunity to examine the potential of the film, the capacity of the film. At some point, can it make some kind of a minority or not, or even it's not some kind of a movie in terms of Deleuzian minor cinema, can it have the capacity to represent an emancipatory politics or not? This is a very interesting inquiry, I think. Thank you very much. The other speech from Dr. Liliya Tsibizova, a very interesting journey. For me, it was the most interesting part of Rustam Khamdamov's cinematography is the hybridity. Am I right, Doctor? The hybridity between the poetics of Eastern motifs and the aesthetics of also poetics of Western cinematic other motifs, they all combine in this director's very interesting cinematography. Thank you very much both. They were both very interesting, very enlightening speeches for me. Now again, is there any questions for our researchers from our audience? I guess not. They were all very satisfying speeches. Papers were both very enlightening. Thank you very much, Dr. Liliya Tsibizova. Thank you very much, Dr. Kennedy. I'm honored to have you both here and all our audiences. Thank you very much for participating and sharing this journey with us. I hope to see you again in next year's Cinefilosofi Symposium on Cinema and Philosophy. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.